Hello, my friends. Another beautiful Monday. Hope you all had a great weekend. We are actually dealing with some wildfires out here, but they're not that bad. They've been managed so well, and I think the big one nearby is actually out, so that's good. So I'm curious if anybody has experienced a really intense emotional reaction to something, and the body behaved in a way that the mind judged as irrational, unsuitable, and potentially even in some cases totally barbaric. Again, we're in a very archaic body. The mind has been socialized, conditioned, and it's evolved, right? The conscious mind has evolved. And so some of our natural instincts to respond in a certain way, they come from a fight, flight, or freeze response. And we talk about some pretty radical things out here, you and I. Our interests are pretty out there, right? When we start to discuss things like extreme freedom, no self, no doership, and I've been in this subject for a while, so I've seen a wide variety of responses to some of these dialogues. And the mind really grapples with the subject to a degree that's, for the conditioned mind, almost inconceivable. And so again, we get to this point that this really isn't content for the mind. We're speaking to something outside of those confines of conscious awareness. Anyhow, so what happens when somebody behaves in a way that threatens the system, and the system doesn't have that moment of reflection to choose how it would like to respond, and instead it expresses a very kind of intense response, and threat, manipulation, projection, where we're basically verbally attacking another person and all that stuff. Most of us go into a little box of shame and guilt and blame. I'm such a bad person. I know so much better than that. Look at me. I'm so enlightened. Why did I respond in that way? Actually, you didn't respond in that way. Okay, the brain responded in that way. So, when the brain waves or the synapses are in a, let's say, theta brain state, okay, so that would be the brain state that you would be in when you're ultra relaxed in meditation, about to fall asleep. Even hiking like I do out here, the brain goes into a totally different wavelength than if I were back home, on the computer dealing with emails from clients and so forth, and those little stress responses come up. When we're in a deep theta brain state, and I think alpha too, okay, don't quote me on that, but I think those two brain states are conducive to deep relaxation, in which a very creative part of the unconscious mind unravels. And so you can get into some things like lucid dreaming. Hypnotherapy is big on imagery, visions. These aspects of us, these extraordinarily creative aspects of the psyche, really only come out in that creative space. And so what I'm saying here is that in order for us to respond to a situation consciously, meaning not attacking the person, or not attacking the situation or manipulating it or going into like personal conditioned responses that we end up, in the dumps after, not feeling too hot about ourselves, that part of the brain would need to be activated. So obviously most of us in day-to-day life, in just a regular society where we have to drive on freeways and work on computers and do all kinds of wacky things, we're not conditioned into that deeply relaxed response where we can say, stop, be present, be aware, and respond from a place of conscious awareness. For example, presence, being present with the object that upset you or triggered you. So, from the perspective of a non-dual awareness, the energies already of the personal self, of the personal dynamic, it's already kind of naturally starting to engage in that deep relaxation because it's slowly disentangling its little tentacles from all these separate based dynamics of survival mode. So it's naturally starting to discharge all those frequencies and all that energy and going into that space of its true nature, of its true space of presence. So the message really today that I wanted to put out there is, no, you're not bad. You're not screwed up. There's not something wrong with you if you're having an extreme emotional response. Okay, our bodies are conditioned through the brain activity to respond in these ways. It's a very natural thing, right? But if we're seeing that it's not getting us the results that we want, for example, deep intimacy with another human, which is what most of us actually really want. We don't want all the, fancy cars and nice homes. Lots of times people want those things because they think it'll get them deeper connections, with others. That they'll finally get that acceptance and that worthiness feeling if they get all those things. But I digress. The bottom line here is we are naturally and inherently relaxing into our true nature on this path. Okay, and it's a path, okay? It's like pick yourself up and try again. Next time, bring more awareness to the situation. Next time, bring more consciousness, more presence, more listening. Apologize, calm down, and come back and return. Continually return to that which you know is love, to that which you know is peace, to that which you know is what you truly want, deep intimacy. It's okay. It's okay if you don't do it every time and you're human. God forbid you're freaking human. That doesn't make you bad. So yeah, that's just a quick little note today, just because this stuff's going on. I know I'm going through it, or this body's going through it, and most of us are going through it, because that's just a big part of life. So anyway, take good care wherever you are today. Enjoy yourself no matter what you're doing, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey there, I'm back. Sometimes I just want to pull in the non-duality perspective a little closer to these messages, because, you know, lots of this content, we're talking about the mind, the activity of the mind, because so many people that get attracted to the subject are attracted to it because they just want that noise to stop. They want the noise to stop. But the noise never stops. You know, that's why we see beautiful pictures of, for example, monks meditating in the middle of New York City. You know, their message is that basically there's something in you that's already at peace, deeply at peace. There's already something here that's deeply in intimacy with everything else. There's something here that already has unconditional positive regard towards itself, an unconditional embrace. There's something here that already has those things. So working on these mental dynamics, and readjusting our neuroconnectivity, or in many cases, the truth of the matter is that our physiology actually also changes when we start to get into non-duality. Not a lot of people talk about that. Maybe I'll start talking a little more about the body and some of the changes that are undergone at a cellular level, but that's not the topic of this video. But when the noise is so loud, okay, and when it's so intense and there's so much identification with what's happening, that truth that's there, you know, underlying all of it, that deep intimacy that's there, it's overlooked. But even if you notice it, okay, even if the mind stops temporarily and it's recognized that that's there and that that's reality and that that's who you are, it won't make a difference, because it's not something you can keep. It's not something that you come in and out of, because you are not the mind. You're not that which comes in and out of that essential being, that fundamental substrate of all of existence. So even if we recondition the mind correctly, and you end up predominantly in a theta brainwave, and you're super chillaxed and at peace with everything and have total acceptance towards all of life, even if that happens, it doesn't change who you've already always been, who you already always will be, who you already always are. So think of this stuff like Play-Doh, really. Like, just play around with consciousness, but always come back to the truth of who you are. Because the mind will offer so many tricks and mystifications with the self-help industry and the energetics aspect of this and the Kundalini aspect of this, which I talk a lot about here, even if I'm not using that word. You could play around with all these different phenomena for your whole life, right? But come back to reality always. I mean, not that you ever really leave reality, because again, this is a substrate of all that is, so it doesn't shift or move, and it's not you coming in and out of it. But just if you're in that phase of coming in and out of things, and you're still kind of playing with the dreaming and the illusions and the theatrics of everything, anchor. Well, actually, you're already naturally going to be anchored in your truth. Especially if there's been a deep inner recognition of your being, even if it was 2 seconds in meditation or in some other circumstances, it doesn't matter, because those experiences are so profound and so deep and so earth-shattering that they permanently shift this temporal being that you think you are. They permanently shift that expression. It would be impossible for it not to get impacted by such a recognition, truly. So I just wanted to drop that in there, because sometimes it's easy to just go down this rabbit hole of self-help and reconditioning, and a lot of that also, I want to say, is already happening naturally, intrinsically in itself. So I'm actually just describing a very temporal experience in the illusion of time, but these are all timeless things that are happening automatically without you having to think about them, or you having to reflect on them, or you having to do them. Okay, so just wanted to throw that in there, and again, wish you a beautiful day. See you soon. Bye-bye.